What's up, y'all? It's Masta, co-founder of hiphopsuccess.tv, here with Coach Tony Brace, fellow co-founder of hiphopsuccess.tv, and this is our this is GameRICH vlog number 3, and today we're going to be talking about Colin Kaepernick and how he disrupted America. Now, some context into exactly what's happening with him in NFL's free agency. As everyone knows, Colin Kaepernick, took the knee to protest against police brutality against people of color and, racism, institutional racism, and a variety of things that have been happening in this country for some time. He felt some type of way about it. And so, in a controversial way, he took a knee during the playing of the national anthem before every football game, the whole season, and pretty much turned America upside down. Am I right?
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
And so now he's a free agent, and he's obviously out of the free agency quarterbacks that are in the pool to being shopped around to get on a new team. He's probably the highest profile one out there, yet he can't get a job. So now I since we're talking about GameRICH, and this is what we do, it's what Coach gives, is game. I have some questions that I'm going to ask Coach so that we can get some insight from him on what he thinks is really going on when it comes to the NFL and how they're giving Colin Kaepernick this treatment. So, but before we start, Coach, you got any words? What's up?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you for your service. For those that don't know, that's watching this, the public, Masta is a veteran, military veteran, so he served honorably in this country. So it's always nice to get a perspective and be able to build with someone that's actually served in the military. For me, I didn't have that opportunity. So again, kudos to you. Now you transitioned from the government military sector to the private sector. And I'm glad that you're my business partner. So just wanted to give out a shout to you in the service that you brought, and your brother too, because I think he's still serving, if I'm correct.
That is correct. And I thank you for the shout out, and shout out to all the troops out there too, all reserve, active duty, and retired, and those that are no longer with us as well. So getting into the first question and the nitty gritty, asking Coach is, first off, did you agree or disagree with what Colin Kaepernick did when he was protesting during the playing of the national anthem?
Yeah, great question. So for me personally, I agreed. Okay, so a lot of people, obviously the country's divided. A lot of people are going to be like, Coach is silly, he's an idiot, whatever you want to call me, for those that don't agree. But I agree. Number one, it's in our Constitution, the Bill of Rights. If my memory serves me correctly, the First Amendment deals with, understanding that you have the freedom of speech, the freedom to protest, freedom of religion, that sort of thing. So I agree with what he did. On the flip side, because I understand commerce, I'm a businessman, I understand, unfortunately, that constitutional rights don't stand up inside of the workplace. And that's just a reality. The Bill of Rights deals with government and citizens. So although we may have certain rights as citizens, if we walk on the public domain, at work, you can't protest, you can't say certain things. And of course, Colin Kaepernick, if you will, was at work, but I still agree with him because of the cause. It was symbolic. He was courageous, that sort of thing.
No, and I agree as well. Being a veteran, I think there's a huge percentage of us that are veterans, and those that are even retired or are currently active, they recognize that him exercising his First Amendment right with taking that knee, as controversial as it is, that's one of the main reasons that many of us do serve, is because a lot of people in other countries, they don't get that right. You take a knee during some sort of, praise of a king or whoever's the leader of that, you might get killed. In America, we have that right and freedom to express our voice our opinions and express our beliefs and how we feel the country is being run. And that's the main reason that many people serve. So, a lot of people were mad about it. I think most people were mad, but I think there's a good percentage of people that understood why he did it and actually proud of him doing it. And that's outside of just black people and people of color. I mean, I know plenty of white people who are, absolutely for it, probably more than some people of color, just because that's how patriotic they are about America. But
absolutely, it comes down to perspective and attitude,
Absolutely, and it takes guts, man. I mean, when that's playing, that's a pretty traditional thing in America. So for him to take a knee, and that was kind of crazy with it too. I mean, he did a silent protest, and the backlash was just ridiculous. I mean, he wasn't out there running around hooting and hollering during that ceremony. The brother just took a knee. But we're gonna get more into it.
No doubt.
So, Coach, my second question is, when it comes to Colin Kaepernick, what is the treatment of him? What is the treatment of Colin Kaepernick and what he's facing with him finding a job? Like, what does this whole situation tell us about America and sports as a whole?
Another great question. We're coming up on April. The NFL season doesn't start until September. So, of course, we got some time to let things develop, okay? I try to bring, even though I'm pro Kaepernick on this issue, just the way that my mind works and the way that my heart works by nature, I'm always trying to find some balance and harmony, if you will. So I don't know what his future is going to bring. At this point, the treatment that he's receiving is unfair because the deadline hasn't manifested, if you will. But what I can talk, and I'm talking about in terms of how the NFL corporation and the franchise system is dealing with him. Okay, so I can't bash the NFL because we don't know. I truly believe that he will have a job because he's qualified. Okay, that's what I personally believe. But in terms of how he's being treated from certain sectors of America, I can most definitely dive into that, starting with the leader of our country, President Trump. I'm paraphrasing here, but I recall President Trump saying, maybe Colin should find another country to live in. Okay. Also, I do recall, again, if memory serves me right, that the police union at a national level, whatever the case may be, they demanded an apology. Okay. An apology for what?
Exactly.
And the thing about, technology and what we do, we're able to harvest information, data, metadata, and we're able to use tools to kind of get a feel, a pulse, if you will, for the consciousness of mankind. You see, that's what happens when you give up all your information. You got government agencies that can analyze you. You got companies that can analyze you, including me. So as I analyze the comments from a certain sector of the country and even around the world, I can definitely see they're unfair and there's a bit of bias, if you will. I like to call it a delusional mindset. You may be familiar with the term cognitive dissonance. At the end of the day, what does that mean? It means that people are confused on their thinking, their attitude, and their beliefs. And when you're dealing with cognitive dissonance, you justify things. So let me just give you an example of what I mean. People know, and the general population and smokers know, that smoking cigarette generally is not good for your health, right? But the hypocrisy will say, you know what, I'm gonna smoke it anyway, okay? Let me give you another example, because we are employers and we're business people, of cognitive dissonance and the hypocrisy and how minds are indoctrinated and start to confuse themselves. And this ties back into the treatment of Colin Kaepernick. Imagine you're a manager or a boss at work, right? And your company had to downsize. So you went from a staff of 10 people now to a staff of 5 people. So your staff that are staying on the job, maybe they feel like they're being overworked. they're taking on extra responsibilities and duties, right? But they feel like, you know what? I should be getting paid for doing 2 or 3 other jobs. This isn't how it used to be. So maybe what one will justify in their mind is, you know, I get an hour lunch break. The boss, Philip, you know, he tends to be out of the office handling company business for a few hours during this time period. So you know what? I'm going to take an additional 20 or 30 minutes. You know, as an employee, in your mind and in your heart, that's wrong.
Right.
But the confusion and the cognitive dissonance will justify the behavior, even though you're at risk of losing your job, and the trickle down effect is you can lose income and it can hurt your family. Does that make sense? And that's what I mean about cognitive dissonance, in when mankind is rushing to judgment and justifying these things. That's what they do. So to tie into a racial example of cognitive dissonance, let's just say you and I are police officers, and we get a call that there's a domestic violence dispute. And we patrol the area, we kind of know the neighborhood, and we find out, okay, it's Mike Jones. We know Mike Jones' rap sheet. He's a 2-time felon, been convicted of selling drugs, been convicted of, let's say, aggravated assault. So you and I were on high alert, naturally, right? Because of the rap sheet. So we get to the scene, we evaluate the scene, and some up shooting and killing him, okay? And video image shows, okay? The video image may show that we were really in the wrong, but the cognitive dissonance will justify the homicide of that person, Mike Jones, in that example, because of his rap sheet,
Right.
because it was a domestic violence case, not dealing with the situation at hand that, yeah, he came out of his house with his shirt off and his wife beat her and he threatened to do A, B, and C to his wife. But when he came out the house, he had no weapon, he had his shirt off, he was in some sandals, and we told him, don't move 5 feet, keep your hands in the air. He has his hands in the air, but he slightly drops them 6 inches to shoot him. Bang, 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 okay? Video comes to the public. There's gonna be a group of people that rush and defend me. Home at night and I'm sleeping and I go through the things in my mind and I'm dealing with my creator and asking for forgiveness. I may know that I'm wrong. I may not confess that to the public because I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to go to jail. But there's going to be a group of people that defend me in my behavior, even though it's flat out wrong because the evidence shows it is wrong. So that's what we're dealing with in terms of the treatment. So hopefully that breakdown makes sense.
Yo, yeah, that breaks down. It kind of goes into my next question that I was going to ask you, maybe a little bit of, you know, my third and fourth question I was going to ask you. So what do you think NFL owners are so afraid of? Like, what do you think it is, even from a business perspective? I mean, we talk, you know, some people say, you know, even negative press is good press, but I mean, we're talking, you know, multi-million-dollar owners of franchises, none of whom are black, by the way, in the NFL out of 32 teams. So what do you think they're so afraid of?
Yeah, another great question. You know, again, I'm not in their minds. It's hard for me to tell you exactly what they're afraid of, but I'll do my best to try to decode and speculate with what we know to be a historical fact. So let's first deal with business, okay? When you look at the majority of the population that consumes NFL products, okay, at the highest cable rates, this, that, and the third, that can afford the tickets, it's generally not minorities from urban areas. So we'll watch it on television, we'll support it, but from an economic standpoint, if we do decide to boycott, the impact's gonna be different than, for example, if white America makes that decision. So there's the financial consequences. That's number one. Number two is, again, I don't know the minds and the hearts of these NFL owners, but they can truly have hatred in their heart for the things that Colin Kaepernick stands for. And some of them may have hate in their heart for the color of his skin, but they deal with them because it's business, just like slave owners dealt with slaves because it was business.
Got it. Now, when we talk about hypocrisy, which is something we did mention just a little bit ago, like, do you see, like, what hypocrisies do you see when it comes to the values of the NFL and outreach and community outreach? Do you see that? Do you think there's I see there's a hypocrisy there between, those, leadership, team playing, being a team player, working together values. And then, this situation comes around and owners are trying to stay away from it as much as possible, stay away from him and what he stands for as much as possible. Like, do you think there's a hypocrisy there?
No doubt about it. There's a hypocrisy. And again, I'm going to deal with the NFL, but I'm going to kind of just circle back to what I was talking about. The hypocrisy is with capitalism in Western societies thinking and behaving. So they're just mimicking and being consistent, if you will, with the programming, right? We're using Google Hangouts. There's a programming that's already set in place. It's going to do exactly what the programmers ask it to do. And that would be no different in the NFL. So to identify hypocrisy, there's not only hypocrisy on a racial level, there's hypocrisy on a level of NFL players that get DUIs, that get in trouble for domestic violence, that get in trouble for weapons. That includes Ben Roethlisberger and everybody, Michael Vick, etc. So the hypocrisy is organization of integrity, but depending what the bottom line says is
Right.
what will determine the consequences for the athlete, if you will. Okay, i.e. Tom Brady. Just look at what he's dealt with. So many hypocrisies on many levels in the NFL, in business, at home, at school, in Western society, period.
Straight up. That's a good point too. Just Western society as a whole, when it comes to capitalism. I mean, this is just, they just, it's business as usual. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But
when you sit back and analyze it like we're doing, if somebody like rewinds the tape and just really listens and puts some intellectual capacity into it, they'll know the truth is, as humanity, we're schizophrenic. We say one thing, but we do the other. So again, it's being consistent and it's playing out in the culture that we live in.
So my next question is, say you're talking to a group of young brothers, young athletes of the future. What can they learn? What would you say to them? Like, what could they learn from the treatment that he's actually receiving right now at the professional level? What would you tell the young athletes of this generation?
They'll learn a lesson on staying rooted in their belief systems. Not many people do what Colin Kaepernick or Muhammad Ali was willing to do. Let's not forget, Muhammad Ali was in the same situation in America, and many others treated him just like Colin Kaepernick, but 30, 40 years later, some and a lot recognize him as a hero. So to the young athlete, I would say to them, you're going to really find out who you are as a man or woman, as a person, what you represent. Because that dangling carrot is that money bag, that $50 million contract, right? Access to different things that you never had access to. Will you compromise who you are, your values for that? Colin Kaepernick didn't. He was already rich. He said, you know what? He already knew what the consequences were going to be. And he took that chance, and he made it clear that it wasn't about him. It was about what was happening in America, and he wanted to take a stand for that. And that's why I applaud him for being courageous from that standpoint.
Absolutely. And I would say the same thing to the young generation as well. I saw a interview. Well, not an interview. It was that show with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. undisputed. And
Okay.
Shannon Sharp was speaking on it, and he said, if Colin Kaepernick, him going all the way through with the protest, I'm sure the first day or maybe even the second or third time that he kneeled, he knew this day would come in free agency where this might happen. And when you do controversial protests like this, just like back in the day, a lot of people, they sacrificed even their lives for a point. And so if Colin Kaepernick's career ends here off of that protest to make that point, it is what it is. And he said he feels that Colin Kaepernick absolutely understands the circumstances that he's in, just like you explained just now.
Yep. So the athletes need to learn, draw that sand in the line, and what side do you represent? Are you teeter-tottering back and forth and inconsistent? That's what you'll be labeled as.
Right.
Or you'll be labeled as solid on being hushed about it, right? Like many other black quarterbacks, because I listened to their interviews, and I ain't gonna call them out, and I heard their response, but it was a canned response to protect their interests.
Right.
Okay? So that's what they'll learn. Me, I just talked about it, a few minutes ago, that it's in my heart and in my mind to find harmony and balance, but it's also in my mind to be independent, to be a maverick, to be courageous. So, what Colin Kaepernick has done, I've been that type of individual my whole life in the context of taking a stance on many things. I grew up in the inner city. I would take a stance against bullshit in the neighborhood that was whack, but it's a street code that, again, the hypocrisy, the cognitive dissonance that we apply to, but I was the one to stand up and make a statement, knowing that I can get jumped right there on the spot. Maybe, there's consequences with it. So I knew that and I understood that.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. You're either going to stand up or you're going to fold and fall in line with the rest of them. You know what I mean? So at those moments, they're going to dictate, really who you are as a person, as a human being, just like you said. That was a good point. So going into my final question, I've seen a lot of talk on Twitter, on Facebook and Instagram, a lot of posts talking about how if Colin Kaepernick doesn't get picked up, because free agency is still happening, the deadline's coming. If he doesn't get picked up, should black people boycott watching the NFL because of the treatment he received? Like, do you feel black people have some sort of duty to really mobilize and boycott watching the NFL? And, do you feel that's right? Do you feel it won't even have, economically, like we just stated, would it really have an effect? I don't know. But if the players participated in the boycott as well,
that would be,
you know what I'm saying? Now, you're talking about situation critical. You know what I mean? So there is no NFL.
If the black players did that, they would be hiring Colin Kaepernick for whatever job that he wants.
Oh yeah.
So to answer your question, should black people as a whole boycott? That's a difficult question. I think if we want to show what we try to say is black power, I don't say this is black power. Black power is what's in your bank account, that currency. That's black power. So if we want to demonstrate, I should say, our economic power, then yes, they should boycott. We should boycott. Now, as an individual, I've already made it public that I am going to boycott. If he doesn't get gainfully employed, I know what the issue is. And so, again, I said I'm courageous. I'm drawing that line. And this is going to tell me who I'm dealing with, especially with the people that are like me, okay? If people like me continue to watch the NFL and celebrate, I'm going to disassociate myself with them because I know where they stand. And I don't want to affiliate with flimsy people that don't take a stand for what I believe and perceive as being righteous.
I feel it, man.
Personal thing. I'm going to personally boycott. Do I expect, my wife to boycott, my sister to boycott? No, I don't expect them to boycott. But I know who they are.
Right.
So in a battle, I know they will fold. I don't care who they are.
Right.
So they'll just show me who they are based on how I look at people and how I look at this life from Coach Tony Brace's viewpoint.
Yeah, I mean, we can go back and forth forever talking about Black people mobilizing for certain issues and taking stances on certain situations that are going on, you know. But I mean, I'm with you 100% when it comes to, you know, economic power and wealth and money. That's the real power, you know. But the methods of Black power and how people decide and choose on how they're going to strategize this mobilization to affect some sort of market. I mean, you know, Black people have been, you know, this generation, you know, just they've struggled to mobilize on many accounts and still can't get it, that the common denominator and the one all be all that will, you know, punch any intimidator or any person showing prejudice or institutional racism is that dollar. You know what I mean? They will bow down to the dollar. The dollar is the God of America. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like they will bow down if you show.
It's the power supply.
Yeah.
It's the power supply. Think about it. It's called currency for a reason. It keeps everything moving.
Right.
It keeps the system going. That's why it's called currency. That's the power. And if Kaepernick doesn't get a job and collectively Black people don't boycott, including the players in all sports, the world will know that we are the laughing stock of humanity.
Roger that.
Like
Roger
we just
that.
go for anything. So we'll continue to get shot down, probably at a higher level. Because they'll say these people, like you just said, they don't understand the common denominator. Let's just keep beating on them, you know. I'm gonna go to a reference again because I'm from the streets. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the analogy. It's the pimp and the hoe. The pimp's always gonna be abusive to the hoe. He's not gonna give her a break. It's no, go out and get my money and use and abuse you until I can't use you and abuse you till you're old or whatever the case may be. Nothing's going to change because there's always a result that the master controller wants, right? And so the master controller wants certain groups of people just to remain, shh. You have no power in this system, in this currency. Your role, you're the conduit to spending.
Right.
Black man, Black woman, that is your role. And see that, it's a cold thing. So again, it's not a race issue, but I guess it is a race issue. So that there's some conflict in my mind as well. And that, again, that's just part of what we grow up in. And, you know, I'm a business coach, a sales coach, and I'm always looking to grow and get better. So hopefully we're all looking to grow and get better. And, you know, if there is extraterrestrials looking at our planet, they're probably saying these people are out of control. They don't know what they're doing. Just like there's certain races and groups that think that way about Black people.
Right.
Straight up. It is what it is. So we're in the knowledge age. We're in the surveillance age. Everything is documented. Everything is recorded. That's how I view it. No conversation is safe, even if you're pillow talking with your spouse.
Absolutely, dude. That concludes all the questions that I have, Coach. So you have any final thoughts on this issue? Want to tell the audience?
Yeah, I got some final thoughts. I mean, you know, this whole situation that we've been dealing with for hundreds of years, but you know, since the social media video age, if you will, in the last 5 to 10 years, we're seeing a lot of pain. Again, I'm talking about the collective humanity. And this is a chance for us to grow, okay? But no, you must know that there are agents, systems, and entities that want division, period, point blank. And if the people can't get beyond that or have a strategy to overcome that, then we're gonna be stuck in the same ways that we've been for thousands of years. If you take it back 5,000 years ago, it's always been about controlling the mind. So now is the time to take off the change. Don't think about, race, just different things. Just think about people, man, and think about doing what you believe is righteous in your heart and stand on it. It's a very difficult situation, but if we're people and sending objects to Mars, and we have the technology and intellect to do that, but we don't have the technology and intellect to solve these basic social issues.
That's a great perspective too, man. We could send rockets up into outer space and come back down and land with pinpoint location, but we still can't get this issue straight. You know what I mean? So it's wild.
Yep.
And it reminds me too,
but there's forces behind the scene that's working to keep it this way, man.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
When you look at viruses, and again, I'm not a scientist, but a parasite needs a host, right? In order to thrive and survive. So it's the same concept. There's certain people, certain companies, certain controllers that they need this to happen in order to thrive, including the media.
Right.
That's why they've been labeled as fake news. They've been fake news since the beginning of when they turned on the radio. Mm-hmm. and communication was available to the mass people. It's always been about manipulation.
Yep. All right, man. So that concludes the vlog number 3, webisode 3 of GameRICH. Coach, I appreciate you, doing your thing on here like we always do. I'm Masta. You can follow me on all social media at MASTAPHI. Coach, where can they find you on social media?
No doubt. You can find me on all social media at Coach Tony Brace. If you're interested in becoming a better salesperson, a better business person, most definitely contact me. Again, on social media at Coach Tony Brace, at my website, CoachTonyBrace.com. You can check out my book. It's titled Issue Success, Own It, the simple solution for achieving what you want. And again, this book is about personal growth and taking ownership for your life. So obviously, if I wrote a book about it, I stand firm on this belief. Got other products as well. If you're a sales professional, audio products, how to make $100,000 over the phone. I'll share with you my trade secrets, my skill set, my strategies, so on, and etc., to help you become stronger in business and produce more income. So that's what I got to say. If you are really digging my message, and I do these GameRICH by, again, this is when we do GameRICH, it's dealing with our perspective and our body of knowledge or wisdom, if you will, and bringing it in a cultural standpoint, dealing with society. I could be the businessman that said, I'm not going to put my face on camera. Maybe I'll lose business. What if, this stuff is on the internet? What if a perspective, that's what I have, and then they go to my GameRICH and say, what? Coach, someone even agrees with Colin Kaepernick? So I may lose business because of this video. I may lose sponsorships when I'm trying to bring sponsors to our company, because they might say, you know what? You guys aren't on this side of the line with us. So, and I understand that. So anyway, Coach Tony Brace, if you did my commentary, get with me.
Absolutely. Don't forget to follow us at hiphopsuccess.tv on all social media. Don't forget to visit the website as well, www.hiphopsuccess.tv, and get registered to keep up with the latest and the greatest on the stories and the great things that are happening within the hip hop community and what they're doing for the hip hop community. That concludes this show. I'm Masta signing off. Till next time for GameRICH Vlog 4. We'll be posting up on social media, Twitter and Facebook, on what the episode will be about later this week. So y'all take it easy out there, all right? Peace.